Hi and welcome back to the channel. I made a mistake last time and I was sorry about that. I thought that Halloween was over, but it isn't. Today is Halloween when you're seeing this video. You like my head things? They're pretty good. Yeah, so I'm going to do a couple of kind of minor, vaguely horror films that I watched and let you know about them. And the first film is, he said looking at his list, Carnival in Costa Rica, a 1947 American musical starring Dick Haymes, Vera Ellen, Cesar Romero, and Celeste. No, that's not right. The first one we're going to do is a giant monster movie. And I like giant monster movies. Who doesn't like giant monster movies? I mean, really, it's one of those go-to comfort film genres for those of us who are of a geeky nature. And this one is a minor effort. It was done on a small budget. It was probably done to sell to the Sci-Fi Channel or something like that in 2013. And I like it for a couple of reasons. The first one of which is that the ingredients are on the label. That movie is Big Ass Spider from 2013. It stars Greg Grunberg and Ray Wise, and it is as simple as hell when it comes to giant monster movies. Greg Grunberg plays a pest exterminator who gets involved with the American military, who have accidentally crossed alien DNA with a spider and created a big spider. The movie starts out pretty good. It's got Lynn Shay, who you might know from the Insidious series, playing one of Alex the Exterminator's clients, and she gets some really nice comic beats in this one. I like the way she plays it, and even though she has gone on to kind of almost be a scream queen these days in horror cinema, it's good to see her kind of hitting the comedic beats for a change, which was where she started out. She was in There's Something About Mary and a bunch of other things, and it's good fun to see her playing a lady who keeps getting Alex out to get rid of pests from her house and pays him in fruitcake. So it's that kind of movie. It's got a light touch. He ends up with a security guard from a hospital as a kind of Robin to his Batman, and eventually works out the way to kill a giant armored spider that's rampaging through Los Angeles, killing lots of people, including Lloyd Kaufman, the guy who created and still runs Troma Films. And a whole bunch of girls in bikinis. It just goes nuts across Los Angeles and eventually climbs up onto a tall building and has to be dealt with that way. And Alex is the only person who actually knows the best way to kill this giant spider. There's nothing much at stake in this one. It's not really... it's funny in places, but not as funny as it wants to be. But it's kind of a comfort film, you know. It's on... where was it? Amazon Prime. It's on Amazon Prime at the moment. It's silly. It's fun. It's definitely a Halloween film. You sit back with your popcorn and just go for it. Now, a couple of popcorn hacks. I've got a couple of popcorn hacks for Halloween movie watching for you. The first one is any kind of Cajun seasoning. If you just do your popcorn, don't bother putting butter on it. Butter's for squids. Just pop your popcorn dry, or maybe in a little bit of oil, and then sprinkle Cajun seasoning on it. You got to thank me. That one's great. The other one is there is a little Japanese chili powder you can get, which is served as a side dish in some izakayas and Japanese eateries, and that chili stuff goes well on popcorn as well. And these kind of movies you're definitely going to want to get popcorn for, because they are definitely that kind of film. So Big Ass Spider, just to finalize, it hits all of the beats you expect from a giant monster movie. It's got the love interest, it's got the hapless hero, it's got the military getting involved, it's got CG that's not really fantastic, but if you enjoy this kind of film, you're going to really just accept that. Anybody these days can do smoke effects and explosion effects, but these ones kind of work. The spider itself is kind of cool. The legs are giant spikes with which it stabs people and wraps them up in webbing and keeps them for din-dins later, kind of like the way the killer clowns from outer space did. You're going to like Big Ass Spider if you get a chance to watch it. If you saw it before, you might want to revisit it. Like I said, there's not much at stake here, but it's a lot of fun to watch. The second film's from a year later, 2014. It stars Scarlett Johansson and Morgan Freeman. It was made by a guy who got rightly Me Too'd, Luc Besson, the French action film director, and it's Lucy. Now, I'm going to address the Luc Besson thing. A lot of people don't like people getting Me Too'd, but I'm the kind of guy, being the lefty that I am, that I tend to believe victims. I mean, yeah, maybe a character flaw on my part, but when somebody accuses somebody of sexual misconduct, while things are being investigated, don't disbelieve the victims. You're going to make their hurt a lot worse. So, leaving aside Luc Besson and his nature, let's say, we're going to talk about the movie Lucy. Now, this one has a great big flaw in it right from the start. It uses as its basis a disproven scientific theory that human beings only use 10% of their brain. That's been discredited for decades now. You can do a bit of a Wikipedia search and get all the details. But allowing that happens, I'm going to talk about the movie. There is a device which I have right here which will reduce your brain capacity to using only 10% of your brain. Now, it was given to me by my brother-in-law and my sister, and I'm not going to wear it. But leaving aside politics for a second, and good luck America, by the way. Yeah, Lucy is an interesting film. Now, the premise is pretty simple. Lucy is an American student in Taipei who has a run of dodgy boyfriends, and she has a boyfriend who is a courier for a drug cartel. The drug cartel is run by a Korean guy played by Choi Min-sik, who people remember from Old Boy. He's quite good in it, though. His character doesn't get a lot to do besides being menacing, which is a bit of a problem. All of the characters are a bit underwritten, with the possible exception of Lucy. Morgan Freeman plays a scientist who's investigating the human capacity to increase their brain power and what that would mean in real terms. And he acts kind of like an explainer for this film. Now, Lucy is captured by Choi Min-sik's character and used as a courier to smuggle drugs to America. She doesn't get there. She's kidnapped by some bad guys and kicked in the guts. Now, the problem with her being kicked in the guts is the drugs have been surgically implanted in her stomach, which is kind of icky, and that's where the horror stuff comes in. And it's a bag of a synthetic hormone. It's called CPH4, and it's a cognitive enhancer. And she's got about 1 kilo of it in her marsupial pouch, let's say. The bag breaks, and she suddenly finds that her intelligence is increasing very fast. She uses her smarts to escape the bad guys, and she realizes, being as smart as she is suddenly, that she has a limited time to live, and she needs to get the other drugs to keep herself alive and to keep herself integrated, and to kind of work out what she wants to do with this sudden gift of ever-increasing exponential intelligence. And the movie does pretty well at demonstrating a lot of this stuff. It does run some parallels between Lucy, the character played by Scarlett Johansson, who's very good in the film, and Lucy, the pre-human that was found in the old Dubai Gorge. And it's a movie that shows rather than tells. There's a lot of cross-cutting with stock footage. There's a lot of ramping up the speed in various parts of it. There's some beautiful ways of demonstrating exactly what she's going through, and special effects that are used really well to support the story. Now, leaving aside the initial premise, which is pretty stupid, and it's utterly unnecessary in a way, because the movie could still run with just saying that Lucy's intelligence is increasing exponentially. That's all you need to say. You don't need to run the percentages on that throughout the movie to show where she is at a particular time. Luc Besson makes that artistic choice, but I don't think it works very well. Morgan Freeman is kind of Morgan Freeman in the movie, with that resonant, wonderful voice of his. And the thing that you really get from this film, and the thing that makes this film work at some levels, is the fantastic nature of Besson showing exactly what Lucy is experiencing, what she's going through and how she's managing it, and how she is losing touch with her humanity. She does kind of connect with the French cop and uses him as that anchor to remember that she is human at some level. And she actually states that in the movie, and it's a kind of nice way to give another voice to it, a kind of French drug cop that she co-ops into her plan. The effects work well. The imagination at work here, the visual imagination at work here is first rate. And for that reason, I'm going to recommend the film. Though I can't recommend Luc Besson as a person, I can at least recommend the movie as a movie that really runs with the idea of showing rather than telling, and using editing and imagination to really tell us a story that we haven't particularly seen done in exactly this way before. It's a kind of hidden gem in a way, and it made $439 million at the box office on about a $35 million budget. So it's definitely a successful film at that level. Now, that's about it for the two recommendations I've got, and that's about it for Halloween. Halloween's a fairly new thing here in Australia, at least as the public perception of it's concerned. Not sure whether we're going to get any kids on the doorstep tomorrow because of COVID and all of those things, but it's nice to see kids dressed up and walking down the streets, and we're getting a little more of that in our area, which I kind of like. Halloween's a much cooler holiday than Christmas. Christmas is too wrapped up in theology for me, in a sense, whereas Halloween is more wrapped up in the folkways and the cultural stuff of the past, and I like that a lot better. Also, it's got more monsters, so you've got to like that as well. So anyway, that's about it this time around. Thank you very much for watching. As usual, like, subscribe, comment, and hit the notification bell. You'll be able to purchase the movies that I mentioned if you look in the show notes. I've got some links there to help out the channel a little bit. But anyway, look after yourselves. Wear a mask. Follow the science. Social distance, please. I don't want to lose subscribers for the worst possible reasons. I'll be back in a couple of days with another movie. I'm actually going to do Indonesian action films this time for sure. And then I'm going to be looking at the second Borat film. So just foreshadowing that a little bit. So listen, look after yourselves. Watch good movies, watch bad movies. Watch some giant monster movies and some movies that are balls to the wall action horror. And I'll catch you next time.